This video is a very informal introduction to survival mode and understanding if you are in it. So survival mode is a term that is used a lot. We hear it a lot on social media when we are talking about emotional and mental health and nervous system health and trauma, etc. But it's also kind of vague because the symptoms of being in survival mode are quite broad. One of the things I would say that is a good sign that you might be in survival mode, because once we can identify where we are and what kind of fits with what we're looking for solutions for, then we can, start to do the work around healing it and supporting ourselves better. Is that if you've clicked on this video because you want to know more about what survival mode is, then that's highly likely that because this topic has piqued your interest, that it's possible that you are already experiencing that. And I think that's a good indicator that you might be in survival mode if you are drawn to posts, videos around the subject, because there's something in you that is resonating, and that you're hearing and that you're seeing, and then you're like, there's something in me, my intuition or my gut feeling that is saying I need to learn a little bit more about that. So I think that's a really good first indicator. But there are lots and lots of signs that we are living in a state of survival. And I would say a good way to describe what survival mode is when our nervous system prioritizes protecting us over connecting with others and having comfort. So we are in this state of protecting ourselves from either our internal or our external environment, because we are always thinking that the worst might happen. And so we look for a way to protect and defend ourselves, as opposed to prioritizing connecting with others and finding comfort. So if that resonates, then that could be a good sign as well that you are experiencing being in survival mode as well. I think a lot of the signs that we're in survival mode, we can feel. So you feel maybe wired, but also really tired, this feeling of not being able to switch off. And a good way to recognize that is that you find it hard to relax, that relaxing is uncomfortable, and that you feel that you need to fill all of your time with doing things, and that if you need to rest, you think it's something that needs to be earned, or that you need to deserve rest instead of just taking it. You might also experience at nighttime not being able to wind down, but actually pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion in the evening, where because you don't feel safe to sleep, basically, that you have this experience that it's not safe to relax, that it's not safe to sleep. And so you push yourself to wait as long as possible before you get the sleep and the rest that you really, really need. Just checking my notes here. So yeah, being wired but tired, pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion so that the body has no choice but to turn off and take the rest that it needs. Being really productive, filling all of your time with activities and things to do. I've already mentioned finding it really difficult to settle. And another good example of being in survival mode is when you think that you're relaxing, but you're not. So you might put on a movie but at the same time, you're scrolling on your phone, or you're talking to somebody, or you're multitasking, doing things around the house. And those things that you're doing, another sign of being in survival mode is that you're rushing to do those things all the time. So there's a certain kind of stressed energy in doing tasks. In some cases. In other cases, it might just be if you're in like kind of a shutdown, functional freeze, survival mode, where you've gone into this, what we call in polyvagal theory, a dorsal shutdown state. You might feel really, really lethargic and not actually being able to do things with energy, with any kind of momentum. So there are two ends of the scale here. And another good example of being in functional freeze, which is also a survival state, is like when we stand in the shower for a really long time. So maybe, much longer than 20 minutes. And, we are just kind of frozen there in the shower. Or when we do get out, we sit on the edge of the bed in a towel for a really long period of time as well. Other signs of being in survival mode, again, like I said, this prioritizing being protective over connecting with others, that can mean that we also find it difficult to connect with ourselves. So we find it difficult to connect with the things that bring us joy, and that make us feel alive and make us feel pleasure, and give us that energy for life, as well as connecting with others. So we might find it really difficult to want to see other people and connect with other people too. That's also a big sign that we are in survival mode, because we cannot handle being around other people. We don't want to either share what we're going through with them, or we don't want others to share what they're going through with us. We just simply don't have the capacity for it. Another example is that you are snappy and very reactionary. You're on edge all the time. You're hyper vigilant, and your reactions to things are often not the way that you would like them to be. You feel like you've got no capacity, no tolerance for things, going even a little bit, out of your control, in your environment. Just the smallest thing can tip you over the edge. That's because the nervous system is so full of stress that, the slightest thing will, push it past its capacity. And we, act very, very reactionary in that moment, in that state of dysregulation. And somatic symptoms of that, like I just said, like us being that like kind of hyper vigilant, is that we might also go into situations where we're looking for exit strategies, and we're always thinking about kind of how we might get out of a situation, because we're thinking about the worst case scenario a lot, or maybe not even thinking, it's just feeling that anxiety that something can go wrong. And so we need to look for our exit strategy. We need to think about how we're going to get out of these situations. For me, I realized that I was there was lots and lots of different things, but I realized that I was in survival mode. Circling back to that thing about sleep, I used to not be able to get to sleep until the last point in the evening, when I had nothing left to give. I also used to feel anxious. I never have been somebody that's had a lot of anxious thoughts, but I felt anxious when I was out and about, especially in new places. Other subtle signs for me, where I realized I was in survival mode and I was at capacity, was that I didn't like watching new things. So if I put on Netflix, I'd often put on the thing that I watched many times because it was so familiar. Couldn't actually handle listening to new music and new TV shows and things like this because that required my attention, which I didn't have much to give, and it was all uncertain because I didn't know it already, and so that was also an extra stress on my system. And you get, if you're someone as well, if you can relate to some of the things that I've been saying and you feel tension in your body, you have headaches, you have digestive issues, because when we're in a state of survival, our rest and digest, our parasympathetic system is doesn't take priority because our survival mode takes priority. So you might be experiencing, more cortisol and releases of adrenaline, which will make your heart race, that can make your body feel tense over a prolonged period of time. That's going to give you headaches and make your body sore and achy, as well as having a shortness of breath. So finding it challenging to actually take a nice, comfortable breath and allowing you to be present with your breath if you find that a little bit challenging. And I'm not talking about taking a deep breath, because taking deep breaths as well can also be dysregulating. But if you notice that there is a shortness of breath there, and yeah, being really overstimulated. So I also identified that I was really sensitive to light and sound and my environment. And I'll do another video about environment as well, because that is really, really important. And I still now experience feeling better when I reduce my lighting and turn the sound down on things and don't put myself in positions where I'm surrounded by too many people. Survival mode as well is we might be in a period of survival mode for a short amount of time, or it can go on for decades, and we might experience short bits of relief from that. But if what I'm talking about is something that you can really resonate with, then it's highly likely that you are in that dysregulated state. And that's also a sign of your nervous system actually doing what it's meant to do. It's meant to protect you. So it's not necessarily a sign that there is anything wrong with you or that you are broken and that this needs fixing, because our nervous system, if we are always at capacity and doing so much all of the time, and like these things happen because we could either have been through a period of extreme stress, accumulative stress that is built up over time, as well as, or different kinds of traumatic events that we might have experienced also. And what we need to do is help our nervous system feel safe again, and understand and rebuild that safety to increase our capacity and release some of that stress, and to process some of that stress that is stored in our system. So if this resonates with you and you are identifying yourself as someone that you definitely feel like you're in survival mode a lot of the time, or that potentially you feel stuck there, then my name is Donna Louise, and I am a somatic trauma trained therapist, practitioner. I'm also a trainee counsellor. I'm trained also in clinical EFT, and I help people to get out of survival mode, to restore their nervous system, and to reconnect with themselves again. That's also, I think I did mention this, but we find it difficult to connect with ourselves, with our intuition, with what we want, with what brings us joy, with just being at peace with ourselves. And that was definitely something that I went through, and it's now something I've trained to help others navigate through too. So then maybe you've heard today and there's some other symptoms that you might be experiencing that I've not mentioned. Go ahead, feel free to ask me any questions and pop them in the chat, and I'll get back to you with what my thoughts are around that. I'd love to hear from you. Please, if you found this video interesting, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon.